If dating, what has been your biggest ick? Multiple women wrote, men holding fish in their profile picture. So if you've never probably scrolled through,
No.
you scroll through, it's like men standing by a truck or kind of holding a fish. So if any men are listening to this, it's an ick.
Welcome to Fated to Fabulous, the podcast for women who know that midlife is not the end. It's the beginning of something bold. Let's get into it.
Hi, ladies.
Hi, ladies.
Welcome.
Welcome to Fated to Fabulous.
Today's topic is swiping, healing, hoping, dating after divorce. Figured this would be a little bit of a juicy topic. We really haven't covered this.
We haven't.
In any of our previous podcasts, but it's kind of a big deal. It impacts a lot of women, and it impacts a lot of women a little differently, I think, in this season of life than in prior seasons.
You know what I was thinking? We usually share a yuck or a yum.
Yeah.
And I think it won't be a yuck or a yum, but it'll be an observation.
Sure.
So when I went to Greece with the 24 women, 50% fell into the category of a previous marriage, so had been divorced or widowed. So it's just very interesting that, of that group of women, 50% of them had experienced the becoming of single, remarrying, or in current status of being widowed. And what does that look like going forward? So just, it's part of our, it is
We'll
part of
get
our
into some of those
existence.
statistics for sure.
Yeah.
So Kim and I, when we were talking about this part, we were talking about, do we bring somebody on as a guest? And I did ask if there was somebody that wanted to come on, but I think that's a tough one to come on and talk about. It's very personal. And then also, if you're talking like, my ex is such a boob, if you have kids that are going to maybe see that on the internet down the road, we wanted to be mindful. And we also, everybody's experience with dating and divorce and relationships in this season of life is so different that we wanted to get a lot of perspective. Yeah. So we ended up doing a SurveyMonkey, sending off a survey, which so many women showed up to do, which I was so thankful for. And so we could kind of get the voice from the majority, if you will.
But also allow them to have
really
anonymity so that they could share their truth, but not be vulnerable as far as their family.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and so we'll do a little bit on here. The first section, I'm going to talk about the answers that they gave regarding their divorces, and then we'll kind of dive in a little bit more about their responses to dating and things like that.
Okay.
So let me go through some of the stats that we have here. Gray divorce. So have you heard that term?
I have, and I think it's very interesting.
Gray divorce is referencing gray hair. So it just means people who are getting divorced older. The average age of divorce is actually increasing. Many are in the 45 to 60 range. So that's what gray divorce means. It means you're getting a divorce when you're older, where typically you would see it when the kids were younger or when the kids went off to college.
Before you're gray.
It has roughly doubled since the 1990s.
Why do you think that is?
Oh boy. I think a lot of reasons. I think that women are more financially independent. I think that women are less tolerant of baloney when they go through menopause. Yeah. I think that's honestly a real biggie. I think we can understand that, right? I think that we talk a lot about the season of life and some of the challenges and some of the things that are unique to it. And it's this season where you're like, okay, I've done all the things and taken care of all the people, and I had all these roles, and now I'm forced to sit without some of those, reflect on my life, and try to figure out, like, is what's going on in my life right now working? And part of that is exploring, like, is my relationship working? Is my marriage working? Yeah.
And I think some women, maybe when they're younger, stay in a marriage because of young children, right? Not wanting
absolutely.
to blow their lives
up.
So
they have stats on that where, it's like when a woman is going to leave, it's going to be when the kids are young, or they wait until they're,
out of high school.
Literally they go out. And there's actually some that show it's harder for the kids when you wait.
Really?
Because they feel when, the last kid goes off to college, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, Dad. And they're like, what do you mean? We thought everything was normal. So it's a rug pull out a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know. But so more stats. 1 in 4 divorces now involve adults over 50. Women initiate, this is not surprising, 65 to 70% of divorce overall, and even higher when you're college educated.
That surprised me, because I thought that some of the marital discord or marital breakdown might be because the partner can't deal with the changing woman.
Right.
And so that they may initiate it because, like my husband said, I didn't know who was coming down the stairs every morning, right? Like, so that's very interesting. That was a surprising one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So remarriage, interesting statistics on there. The rates of remarriage are lower when we're in midlife, especially for women.
Okay.
50 to 60% of divorced men remarry, but I have a question based on this one, versus 40 to 50% of women. So if 50% of divorced men are remarrying, who are they marrying?
Probably 20-year-olds.
Okay. Because I was going to say, shouldn't it match? No. Not necessarily, right?
Maybe not.
Yeah,
no.
maybe not. Okay.
Because they're dating 20-years. Yeah.
So we see that in our practice.
Sure.
We do see women, like I have a couple of clients who are upper 60s and getting married in maybe a second time or a third time. But why do we think that women in midlife are less likely to remarry?
I have lots of thoughts on this one.
Go for it.
Golden Girls. Watch the Golden Girls. That's why. I think my prediction, quite frankly, and I'm in a happy marriage and I love my husband. And I predict that there are going to be like generations ahead of women living in tiny houses in communities together. I don't know. That's what I think we may see a lot more of that. But yeah. Men don't do as well when they're not with actually there's like health statistics and I don't have them off the top of my head.
But I remember seeing in the past that mental health statistics for men, they don't do as well,
right.
single as women do, which is interesting.
Yeah. So divorce is tough. Kim, you coach women and you have women in your practice who have been through it. You yourself are in a happy marriage. Your parents were married. Michael's parents remained married. I come from divorce as a child. I was divorced. I was 40. I got a tattoo and a divorce.
Which do you like more?
Definitely my tattoo. Divorce is no joke. It's definitely tough. I mean, people can do it really well and be great co-parents. That was not my experience. I had lots of things that I would have done differently. But here we are, and I am in a happy marriage. But it was interesting doing these surveys, kind of looking at the questions like, would you remarry or are you dating and all of this thing. So I'm gonna go through like some of the stats that I did.
Love it.
So the questions that we came up with, current relationship status. So 33% were remarried or married. 3% were in a relationship. 15 were single and dating. 5% were separated, and then 10% were single and not dating. Some of these things ended up, people would put other and then have really funny comments. So I've got some good ones in here. So if divorced or separated, how long were you together? This one was interesting to me. There was only one respondent who was 0 to 5 years. Everybody else was 10 to 20 or 20 plus years. So these were the women doing these surveys were in long-term marriages. What was the hardest part of divorce, separation, and midlife? Some of these were interesting. Many, many, many responses, managing kids. So the dealing with doing it on your own, with wrangling the kids, dealing with things around the house, finances was definitely a theme there. Not being able to see your kid every day, huge adjustment, obviously, through divorce. Not having the family home for gatherings. I definitely remember that one being a toughie, if it wasn't your year to have Christmas morning or something like that. Judgment from my family. I felt bad for whoever wrote that one. That's just yucky. Doing it all alone. Starting over and learning to put myself first. That was actually referenced a few times. Yeah. Navigating dating with children as a single parent, definitely not easy, especially as you get into remarriage and blending families. And then another response of finding myself again, which I really liked. That was a big theme through here. How did your confidence change was another question. Interesting. So 10% had decreased, 15% stayed the same. And then we had like 50% increase, which I loved hearing the increase. So like, you go, girl. Yeah. You get that glow up.
With that, that which doesn't kill me, right?
Yeah. And one person wrote, decrease at first, but then I realized I can do hard things. Confidence kept increasing. So yeah, ladies, you can do hard things. If divorced or separated, are you comfortable stating why? So I wanted to kind of get a sense of what was bringing people here. And married too young. And I would say a good quarter or more of women listed drinking problem, alcoholism.
Yeah.
Couple mentioned abuse. Infidelity was decently on there. I love there was one divorced amicably. That was great.
Yep.
Neglected emotionally. And this one broke my heart. He said, we grew apart. I was struggling with menopause. So that, just takes us back to why we need to make sure we're educating like partners and women so that they can communicate, that they can get support. But that one broke my heart a little bit.
Okay.
So now we're going to dive into dating.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into dating. It's interesting because when I think about, I'm 61.
Yeah.
If I found myself single soon, right, for whatever reason, would I date? Would I, consider getting married again? Any of those things. And I guess when I sat and thought those questions through, I have no idea. No idea. Like I can't even predict that. Like I can't predict using the apps and doing all that stuff. That sounds heinous to me just because I've watched my kids use it and it doesn't look fun even for, young people. But I don't know. Like I think I would have to I
got some responses like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not out of the realm of possible because I asked, would you get remarried? I personally, I believe wholeheartedly it would be me and my dog, ride or die. And then I would I'd live with women.
Yeah.
But who knows? I could. You could go to the grocery store and fall in love. Like you just don't know. We can't predict it. But I would say very solidly, no, I would not at this point. So it'll be interesting. When we write things up ahead of time so that we have talking points. And so I had a little bullet point and then Kim was reviewing it and I was just laughing because I wrote down ghosting, breadcrumbing, mismatched intentions. And Kim wrote, Kim does not even know what these mean. Which was funny.
I don't know.
I hear it from I think it's it is women our age and it is women that are younger. So ghosting is apparently this practice where you are dating somebody, you're seeing somebody, you're talking to somebody regularly, and all of a sudden they fall off the planet. They block your phone and they never talk to you again. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? Why can we not just say, hey, I don't think
it's not
that we're a good
out.
match?
Yeah. Because you can in social media.
I know.
Right?
I know. And then breadcrumbing, from what I gather from, is you're talking to somebody and things are going really well and then they kind of pull back a little bit and you're like, oh, I don't know, I haven't heard from them, and then all of a sudden you'll hear from them a little tidbit, a little breadcrumb, and then they'll pull and so when I hear things, I'm like, yeah, Miller the dog and I are going to live together. Mismatched intentions is another one that people were listing as a theme, and that makes sense. So you can have say you go on and you're looking for casual and somebody else is looking for casual. And then you get feelings for that person and they're still like, hey, I just wanted casual. So I think that can happen.
Okay.
Or you have somebody who's kind of a jerk and lies and says I am looking for marriage, but really they just want to see you naked. You know what I mean? So that you can see in the world of dating. These are things I hear from other people.
I was thinking about it from the perspective of financial too. What if you're a woman of means?
Sure.
Right? And somebody is like, oh, I'm looking for a relationship and friendship and companionship. In actual fact, they just kind of want some financial security.
Sure.
So that's what I was sort of thinking about that.
And then there's
too.
Catfishing, which we won't even get into.
You have to, because I don't know what the heck that is. I feel like I'm missing all these words. Is it growing up in Nova Scotia? What?
You do not need to worry about these things right now. So catfishing is real. It's when somebody they have pictures that aren't themselves, or they completely lie about who they are. My mom, I'll share this because she won't listen to this, was actually catfished when she was widowed. She went to date. And I was like, Mom, you need to date. And the only way to do it is to go on these, senior whatever.
The
right?
silver group.
And of course it's yuck, yuck, yuck. And so she's swiping and all of a sudden this guy who's, relatively attractive and he lives in Portsmouth and he owns his own business and all of these pieces, right? So they get to talking. And I mean talking, they take it off the app multiple times a day. He's sending her messages, texts, you're so beautiful. She's so excited. She's so flattered. They're going to meet up. And he had to put it off because he had to fly away. He had a business meeting.
Red flag, red flag, red flag.
But I wasn't getting the red flags right out of the gate.
Okay.
You know who figured it out? Avery.
I was going to say,
so
one
Avery
of your girls.
says to me, Mom, Grandma just went to go get a $300 Best Buy card because he needed for his grandson and didn't have time to get it. I was like, oh man. So I said, Mom, I need you to send me every information you have about him.
Yikes.
I want pictures. I did a reverse Google search. She was totally being catfished. And thank God, guess what she lost? $300, no more. But women can lose like significant amounts of money. This is not to scare people from dating, but realistically, this is some of the things that women have to think about as they're, it's crazy. So again, it's going to be Miller and I. So the questions that I asked about dating, I'll dive into. Are you currently dating? And honestly, a lot of others were in a relationship. About quarter had remarried. So, pretty consistent. No, thank you was 20%. Yes, it's rough was 10%. And no, but I want to was 5%. So interesting. If you're single after divorce, are you hoping to marry again? Maybe if the right person comes along. So that, along with what you had said earlier made sense. That was like about a quarter of the women. Happy dating was 10%. Absolutely not was again 20% to the marriage part. One person said, I like living separate and being together. Which I could get around that. I know people who do that. They just keep their own places. Yep. And this is definitely funny because this is when I knew which one of my friends sent this. Yes, but only for money and someone to kill bugs. I know exactly who wrote that and I love her. What is your biggest fear about dating in midlife? And I think it probably goes in alignment with what we just talked about. Probably all of those categories that Kim has never heard of. Yeah. Rejection. Decent amount, trusting again. So that probably lines up with the women who were kind of hurt, betrayed, whatnot. Yeah. Body image, sadly, was 20%. Yeah. And, there's like a song on the radio now, I forget what it's called, but it's like, I don't want to have to get naked in front of anybody else again. It was a breakup song. Starting over emotionally. That was another big one for people. And blending families. Yeah. So those are pretty good fears or things to think about. I wanted to get some positive things about dating at this age. And I have had, that's what I want to say. I don't want this to be a pro-divorce, anti-dating in any way type of spin because I want everybody to be happy and loved. And I do know so many people who had great experiences on the app, met the love of their life or at the grocery store and are so happy in their second marriage. So just wanted to put that out there. Best part of dating at this age, I know what I want. Yeah.
And also alternatively what I don't want.
I know exactly what I don't want.
Yeah.
I know how to spot red flags, excitement of something new, right? And then somebody wrote, there's a best part. You can be picky and should be picky. I've proven that I can do it on my own. So I think getting the confidence. So dating at this age, you don't need somebody, you want somebody. And that I think is pretty special. About 50% of the group said, yes, I have used the dating apps and yes, I hate them. A very small percent loved them, but most of them said it's just sort of a necessary, because organic it's where do you meet somebody organically, especially since we're pretty chronically online these days. Yeah. If dating, what has been your biggest ick? Multiple women wrote, men holding fish in their profile picture. So if you've never probably scrolled through, you scroll through, it's like men standing by a truck or kind of holding a fish. So if any men are listening to this, it's an ick. Men who get offended when you're honest and say you aren't interested for whatever reason. Someone just looking for sex, unless you are just looking for sex, which is fine. Old photos, well, they don't look like that anymore. Where they jump to sexting in conversations instead of trying to get to know you. Ghosting, poor communication. And the gross, I didn't think this happened in our age range, but apparently it does. The D pics.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens apparently in our age. I know it happens in your 20s. Like I hear about this all the time from my girls. But no, it happens in our age too. Yuck. I don't ever want anyone to ever send me a picture of their genitals.
Absolutely
for any
never.
Reason.
No.
Okay. Kim's never dating. Everything happens to Michael.
I kind of like the idea of the women commune and living in little tiny houses and having like a dwelling in, a common house kind of thing. Yeah. Yep.
What's something you wish you knew before dating again? How to navigate doing it when you have kids. I love this one. We are all just people experiencing life for the first time and not always getting it right. I really like that. It gives you a lot of grace and acceptance for other people.
Yeah.
Here we go. Do a background check. That's great. Make sure your plumbing is working prior to intimacy. horror story, but I can now laugh about it. Yeah. So that's when you come and you go get your vaginal estrogen, ladies. You've heard enough of our podcast that you know what it is that you have to do.
Yeah.
I like this one too. Take your time being single. You don't need to have a partner. It's wonderful to find one in this life, but you don't need one.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Red flags. What to
Dick
look
pics.
For. Yeah. Oh, okay.
That would be
Kim
like
said the bad word.
Yeah.
I know it's what it is. Everybody knows. I'm going to send one to Kim just to be funny.
Oh God.
What red flags? People who haven't worked on themselves, lying. Duh. Again, guys who have a fish or a car or a boat in their pictures. if they don't smile with teeth in their pictures, ask about their teeth. Love bombing. Love bombing. Do you ever heard that term?
And that's consistent with narcissism as well. So that's a huge red flag.
Yeah, where you're like, oh my gosh, this guy came out of nowhere. He was absolutely incredible and all those pieces. Yeah. And this one said, I can spot a narcissist from 100 miles away.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think we're getting good with social media because we talk about these things now. We talk about, narcissism and whatnot. I think people are a lot more attuned to things like love bombing and things like that. And then the last one, which I liked, was what have you learned about yourself through divorce, separation, dating? I'm pretty fun. I love that.
I like that too.
I can make anything happen on my own. I'm stronger than I thought. And this was repeatedly in the theme here, is that I am stronger than I ever knew I could be. I can do hard things. Yep. I've learned that I don't need anyone else to bring me happiness. I have to find that within. I'm fortunate enough to have found someone who brings me additional happiness. So I loved these surveys.
I love that too.
I love the responses. It's good to hear what's happening because we hear about it individually with women in our practice. But I think, if somebody's going through this, if they're divorcing and they don't have other people around them or they're trying to navigate dating, it's nice to have somebody else to.
Absolutely. So hopefully this was helpful for somebody out there just sort of thinking about it and at least to feel like there are other women experiencing things and are willing to talk about it and willing to share their information. Back to my group of women.
Yeah.
We were talking about remarriage and making that vulnerable step to remarry. And one of my friends said that when she started thinking about remarrying, she realized at her age that she was either going to be a nurse going forward, right? So age-wise, or a babysitter. And she chose babysitter.
Okay. So she's a cougar. Okay.
And then another gal piped up and said, I did the same thing. When I started dating, I was so much more lively, active, young, behaving than the men that were in my age group that she said I just couldn't identify. So she also ended up choosing a husband who was younger and not, I think, just because of lifestyle match. I think they just matched better.
Well,
right?
I get we share them, these spectacular women in our practices who are like dynamos in their 60s and older. And they're like, I can't date guys my age.
Correct.
So sometimes, it needs to be a match. At this point in midlife, it's not like, oh, I have to date somebody my age. Like you really have to just find somebody who's a match for you, I would say.
Yeah. Thinking about one of our mutual friends, she is in a committed long-term relationship with her partner, and he is older than she is, but super duper active. And so just so you know that we recognize that there are lots of very active 75 and whatever beyond men. But I just thought that was sort of an interesting thing. And then another dear friend of ours, we joked about, so these two women, one of them, her husband is 14 years younger than her, and the other woman's husband is 9 years younger than her. And so with this dear friend of ours who does not act, behave, look, or represent her chronological age at all, we're like, you're going to have to find somebody that's even younger than 14 years because this is the trend that we're doing.
You're going to have to lie on your dating app.
Right? Seriously, yeah. So this has been a good conversation. And I think that there may be more to come. We may have learned more. We may have more things to talk about as well with regards to...
I have some ideas that we could dive into a bit more in terms of taking care of yourself through breakups and things like that.
Absolutely. But becoming a widow is not impossible for any of us. Like I have dear friends who experienced it. So this, not that I want to think about this as my reality, but kind of have to. So end on a good note. So my
Yeah.
brother, who turns 65, sorry, Doug, for outing your age, and he doesn't act and look his age at all. He found the love of his life at 64, and his partner girlfriend is the same age. And so my brother was getting off a dating website because he was sort of like just kind of done with the activity. And Gail, his girlfriend, who was spectacular and I love beyond imaginable, she was dared or lost a bet or something to go onto a dating app. And just on the day that my brother was getting
talk
off
about the
was the day
universe
that
putting
she
you together.
correct. So they connected, and they're both really avid skiers. That is their thing, and I think that was sort of that common.
great.
So they started chatting together. And funny story, my brother is a dentist, and Gail snapped a tooth. And had texted him like, oh my God, like I've snapped a tooth. And he's like, if you come into my office, I can take a look and fix it for you. So their first date
Was him fixing her
in her
broken
mouth.
tooth. Oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty funny.
Isn't that funny?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know, that's very funny. So I thought it'd be sort of fun to end on a good. And they are actually celebrating their first year together this week.
Great.
Yeah, kind of cool.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us. And I hope that this was helpful for you. We look forward to seeing you soon.
See you soon. Bye. Thanks for spending time with Vicki and I today on Fated to Fabulous, where midlife is just the beginning of your boldest chapter yet. If you got something out of today's episode, we'd love it if you'd share it with a friend and leave a review. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for more support, inspiration, or sisterhood, come join us at fatedtofabulous.biz. Because you were never meant to do midlife alone. Until next time, stay fabulous.